To quote something Shelley Long once said to me in a dream, I like this one. Got your attention now, huh? I do though. After being incredibly lukewarm on the Crash remakes, and Hat in Time finally got me a little excited. It's kind of amazing this even exists, being developed by a disparate bunch of folks working over goddamn Discord. Breeding a generation of wizards, I swear. Where's it gonna end? Where's it gonna fucking end? It's packed with all these crazy ideas and details that make it as much fun to explore as it is to play, and the enthusiasm they clearly had for the project is very infectious. I like it. I really like it. But I wish I loved it. Fucking typical. I'll be free of this gag one day, I swear. I was never expecting a masterpiece, and I appreciate we're looking at something impressive given the level of experience here. It's just that some of it is undermined by basic design flaws that could have been dealt with early on, details which would have elevated Hat in Time from a nice experiment to one of my new favourites. I'd be telling everyone, you couldn't stop me. You'd probably try.
Dial 911. Tell the police to get up here quick, somebody's about to get killed.
I mean, I know, I ain't got no PhD, I ain't a doctor, who dis? I just felt there were a couple of clear points where the game could have stepped up that people aren't discussing. Don't fret though, I'm going to start by talking about all the stuff I like, and I was also happy to concede that there are a few issues with the console version like frame rate and bugs which won't play into my critique. From what I can tell, the PC version just doesn't have these. Gears for Breakfast seem like a really talented bunch. They just already have enough people talking about how great they are, and I don't want them to get complacent for their next venture. They deserve all the support they get, but, somebody gotta be a little critical groblin boy, hiding under the basement, little hairy trot, Merry Christmas. This is you. This is your home. Who dat? Ah! And that's it. Hat in Time is light on info, and for the most part that's to its strength. There's no tutorial, just a few hints and blind hope as you stumble through the first world, getting to grips with your new friend's talents. That's because Hat in Time's ethos appears to be about something certain recent platformers haven't been, the moment-to-moment experience. Yes, there are goals you can pursue, but Mafia Town is built towards forward momentum. It's not a huge area with dead space, everything's geared towards a new way of getting around, showing you the path through guided collectible placements or an interaction that can be made. Not always in the way you expect either. Thanks, mate. I was a little fumbly on the controls to start with, but I do think they're decently weighted, if not more tricky than I was expecting. Hat Girl's got a nice little spring in her step, does a very slight double take when you land, and while it took a while not to lose my footing on precarious ledges, it became something I could actually master as time went on. She's got an awful lot of cool stuff at her disposal as you progress, be it her umbrella that serves as both an attack and later a falling damage mitigator, the various badges that give her special abilities and attacks, or the many hats you can create which grant you different powers. Early on, you can also appreciate the effect of the graphical approach. Gears for Breakfast didn't have the budget or expertise to maintain powerful graphics, instead focusing on simple textures that are not only cheaper, but also harken back to the games that they're referencing much more directly. I think it looks great, not only tapping directly into the source of most people's nostalgia, but focusing more on the inherent appeal of the design work than how many gigs and bits they can cram onto the screen at any given time. My initial worry at this point was that I wasn't exactly thrilled by my experience inside of Mafia Town. I mean, it was cute, it was nostalgic, but it wasn't exactly compelling and felt like the most distinctly amateurish part of the game in terms of structure. A lot of the actual missions within it are kind of wishy-washy, with very little logical follow-through, and it seemed less directed in what it wanted me to achieve. It didn't help that the first boss I played was in a 2D style. I mean, I get it, I love Paper Mario 2 as much as the next guy, but it sort of lowered my expectations for the kind of boss battles I thought Hat in Time would offer overall. So I left the level thinking, I don't know, it's okay, the game's alright, but whatever, let's just see where else we go with Well shit, for me, Hat in Time doesn't become something truly special until you make your way to the Deadbird studio, and from then on it's a total ride. Not only does it avoid the typical world types we've come to expect, it throws crazy idea after idea at you in a way I haven't experienced since I got Glowbox off his tits in Rayman 3. Based Francais. It's not anything that distracts from the core gameplay mechanics, far from it, but now we get something that's an awful lot more reactive to your direct input in the game world's events. They begin to take on these neat framing devices, where Hat Girl is in some way working towards a specific goal set out in the first act of the stage, and each takes us on a different conceptual approach. There's World 4, which is this set of extremely tall mountains you can choose to discover at your leisure, with a heavy focus on intricate platforming and exploration as you make your way to the top of each landmark. World 2 has you attempting to earn favour with competing directors, their missions made up of time challenges and stealth puzzles. Whatever stage you earn the most points on will dictate the winning director and the final challenge at the end. Nice. Shame about the controversial celebrity cameo though. You cheapen this game with your presence, sir.
Alright, I'm feeling pretty personally attacked right now.
I was pretty into their approach on redirecting mechanics to create out-of-the-box missions too. In one case, you have to lead a parade around the town rooftops, only you can't stop moving or the band members, which follow your every step parade style, will ram into you. Not only that, but the pyrotechnics you're asked to activate will keep adding projectiles that you now have to avoid to carry on. That's a very novel take on including player conflict in what is supposed to be an upbeat musical mission, and it really stood out to me as something other music-based games might want to take a look at. While it might seem like an obvious choice, I think World 3 is going to stick with me the most, and if we're honest, was probably designed to be the favourite. Snatch's spooky swamp, the Subcon Forest, is worth the price of admission. After falling for one of his traps and signing your soul away, he has you taking on some dirty deeds, the one most people will probably talk about being the excellent mission at Vanessa's Manor. This kind of feeds on my love of Luigi's Mansion and Gregory Horror Show, cartoon spookies that insisted on your getting to know a creepy environment and interacting with the inhabitants outside of just hurting them. Vanessa goes one step further by actually stalking you through the house, and while it's often a little too scripted, showed an awful lot of potential for a dynamic survival spook 'em up. Almost feels like a massive middle finger to the spooky swamp level in Yooka-Laylee, which it's got pumpkins and not much else. I mean, man, you're just holding up so well against this, aren't you? There's so many little details you can stumble upon, some of which add a stunning level of vibrancy. It's got that comfy sense of community I've been missing in platformers for a while now, with a focus on what feel like lived-in interior locations as much as fun outdoor playgrounds. Your curiosity is always rewarded with a little aspect or discovery that extends the scope of the world building and makes you feel like your efforts were worth it. I think this really breaks up the experience into super memorable chunks. Most of the stages are character driven, the rooms you enter and the sights on display telling you more about them and their world, as well as giving the devs a chance to diversify the genres within those stages. It's not overly long either. This was in direct response to the fact that Yooka-Laylee had a huge endgame toll you had to pay to access the final boss, a factor that played deeply into my misery. At 40, there aren't a huge amount of timepieces to collect, and only 25 as well as a couple of specific hat types are needed to access the final boss. That's about enough if you play pretty linearly to finish all 4 worlds and experience their full campaigns. Or not. You can choose to opt out early on if you've been collecting every timepiece as you go. Likewise, you can go the other way and really dig in to grab all the tokens, colour schemes and optional timepieces that you want. The currency is also not to a finite total, so there's no pressure to collect all of those for an item, rather just enough as you go to earn certain badges. There's also the time rifts. These stages are absolutely gorgeous, and while not horribly challenging, clearly evoke the change of pace established in Mario Sunshine by the non-flood stages. There's just a real nice fluidity to the choices on offer, and the idea that the more you invest, the more the game gives back. Badges can even be bought that, rather than just giving new abilities, alter the game's settings with one-hit kills or replacing the voices with gibberish, which you may want to grab, but don't worry, we're getting to that bit. It's a level of flexibility that acts as a rubber band effect, and gives you a chance to enjoy multiple playthroughs with a purpose. The music, by the way, perfect, great, 10 out of 10 soundtrack. The whole thing is an absolute joy to listen to, got me swiggy with my jiggy.
Oh my god, I feel so alive.
Even if the hub world is a bit too Kirkhope-esque, I can't even get away from his weird MIDI horn choices here. You sure are a great composer, Grant. You did a lovely job, didn't you? So that all sounds pretty great, and it is. But for every turkey, there's a Brussels sprout, and I love sprouts, I can't lie. Brussels sprout analogy? Okay, that's not going to get the point across. Basically, I want to reiterate that I really do like this game, but now we've got to talk about some real shit, you know? I think the best way to frame all of the issues I have with the game is something I literally just came up with. Creative syntax. I mean, yeah, it sounds like a bunch of bullshit, but it's the best I got, just give me a chance. There's something I like to call the got it principle. You offer a design or idea to an audience, and you give them enough visual information within that to give them something to follow on with. He's a raccoon who steals stuff, got it. She's a bounty hunter in space, got it. He's a wacky experiment, a Tomb Raider, an acrobat. Got it. It means less legwork on your part. You don't have to over-explain or clarify something with a backstory unless you address that or set up a deliberate mystery. It also means you can build on top of that idea or joke in a natural way, which can lead to some excellent aha moments for both your characters and the audience. Elements arranged in a way that allows you instant clarity to springboard to bigger and better ideas and maintain a sense of consistency. Creative syntax. Yes, okay. The problem with Hat in Time is that the creativity is all there, but the syntax is not. 2 plus 2 does not always equal 4, and that sometimes affects both my investment in the game and my understanding of the mechanics. I know this isn't a game made by professionals or even people who share the same cultural sensibilities as each other, and I'm not looking to put a cap on creativity. I get that sometimes having moments in a game that are just, what the fuck, is in itself part of the game's charm. I just found myself caring less about stuff I wanted to enjoy, or getting ridiculously confused or annoyed at simple things that didn't seem to follow on a fundamental level. Like, I get how balls of yarn can be used to create new hats, that's pretty great. I don't always understand how those hats correlate to the abilities that they offer. The sprint hat is probably the only one I understood straight away. I mean, it's obvious, it's a sports cap, and it looks like something geared towards motion, and becomes a sick-ass bike, making it the best one by default.
Deja vu, I've just been in this place before. Higher on the street, and I know it's my time to go.
Is it obvious though that the brewing hat would be your projectile bomber ability and would correlate to these yellow glowing things? Or that the spooky mask reveals platforms after the established sonar bells do the same thing? Or that the ice hat does this? I mean, I love it, it's great. I just wish I'd been nudged towards it less obtusely. I'd see stuff early on that I quickly reasoned needed an extra move to deal with, but didn't know if it was urgent that I address it straight away. I swear I actually had to quickly Google a moment I got stuck at in World 4 with revealing intangible platforms. Like I said, the sonar bells introduced earlier also did this, and I didn't realise it actually required a whole new hat to overcome a second time. Likewise, the idea of putting a ghost inside of a plum to create a bomb. I didn't figure that one out alone. It's cool, but why? I guess I missed this? I think the most obvious point of this, as I mentioned before, is Mafia Town, as well as the bizarre setup the game is built on overall. I kinda spent the first half of the game feeling like I was a page behind or something. Also, when I think of Mafia, I think of wise guys, Italian greasers, gaming Brit, but instead we've got what seems like a bunch of Russian heavies all dressed in cook outfits? Like, the town seems like a big grocery fishing place, more food-based than anything else, so it's like, it's a oh! What? Now see, that's something I had to find, and even then the grammar's kinda I feel like you could have made this a lot simpler and built to this idea gradually. Like, establish that it's a town of mafia pretending to be fishmongers, that's their front business, and have the initial guy acting like he's caught a big fish, and then it turns out he pulls down your ship by accident. So now this mafia town disguised as fishmongers is on high alert about their operations. Like, it's still insane, but it actually has a basic through line, and you can keep ramping that up to something. This kind of overcomplication is also sometimes an issue with the character design, because while it's really nice to look at, there's a lot of stylistic clashes. I think the conductor is both a character I really like, and a character that represents everything wrong with Hat in Time's final polish. All the bird designs are recognisable, but the conductor is some kind of super stylized looking monster bird that I wouldn't have gotten without the level theme cluing me in. Oh, you know how I said these two are both film directors competing over their genres for an award? It's a bit more complicated than that. One is also a train conductor solely to justify his use of a train level. One is a DJ and more of a publicist than a film director. I don't think either gag reads very well. Like, why aren't they just competing film directors or actors who go to great lengths to ensure their stardom? Why does it have to be all these distractive statements and clarifications for the sake of weird gags? It actually makes it harder to set up the cool ideas you have coming up later in any digestible way. Just say he hijacked the train and the track for the movie because he's rich and crazy, and have him eccentrically dressed as a conductor to feel more part of the action. Like, this is not hard to make easy, guys, come on. I think one thing that did pull me out a bit was when a certain reference to a game wasn't blended particularly well, though this didn't happen too often. It's a love letter to the games I like too. Less the Banjo-Kazooies and more the offbeat adventures. Mario Sunshine, Psychonauts, The Wind Waker. It's occasionally done in a really smart way. You get what it's drawing from, but has its own unique spin that takes it somewhere new. However, there were a couple of occasions where it actually hurt the experience because it became more distracting than anything else. The one that sticks with me the most are the crows in the Orient Express chapter. I mean, it's clever, a murder of crows and all, but if you're going to shamelessly copy the gag wholesale from Psychonauts, then you've got to expect an unfavourable comparison. Psychonauts did this for a very specific purpose, to establish a conspiracy theorist point of view of the world and how he thought there were spies around every corner. This gag is literally, oh, there are funny spies on the train collecting your info. Right. Plus, the G-Men are 50s, whereas the Sherlock Holmes vibe is way more early 20th century. Wouldn't it have made more sense to feature some Keystone Cops or a bunch of, heavy pugnacious types? I love those. Hell, give these guys the Russian accents. Make them commie spy stereotypes or something. Come on! I'm sure that'll be more endearing the more I do it. Speaking of voices, there does seem to be a bit of an over-exuberance in some of the voice direction. Not so much the cast's fault, I don't think. There's a lot of great people involved here. Even so, a lot of funny ideas or jokes were kind of ruined by the delivery. I don't know if this is the case, but it feels like whoever was guiding this was a bit too pleased with themselves for letting some of the stuff in. I could be wrong.
This movie studio is too big for the both of us, DJ Grooves.
Like, there is a line between a quirk catching on and becoming super obnoxious. Chances are your first take where you found it funny before deciding to build on it was probably worth including for the audience too, to get them on the same page. This is why I really dug Snatch's performance. He reads his lines like an actual person, that's great, but he's also got natural charisma and gave us some coherently funny dialogue. Best boy.
You're taking the experience away from other people. And you got your head all the way up it.
Of course, it doesn't help that Mustache Girl is a bit of a peak offender, boy howdy.
Looks like you've got a lot of cleaning up to do, huh?
Her voice doesn't really match anything about her design, which is in itself kind of a head scratcher. I get the mustache, she's like a little girl trying to be a cheeky villain, but she's also meant to be like Red Riding Hood. I mean, unless she's trying out for the First Order, or this is not funny, I don't know Star Wars. I actually like this voice actress and the character, but her motivations and speeches are kind of all over the place, which ruined a lot of her big moments. The direction and writing just didn't pull it off, trying to give me something it considered heavy, but really just coming across like a 5-year-old who thinks the most emotional shit is fucking Pokemon or something. We're going digital. Oh, and then there's the Hat Girl herself. Please don't hate me. She's cute as hell, she's nice, she's got a decent design, but I never felt she was finished. And I think that goes all the way back to the got it principle I was discussing earlier. I know it's kind of a meme, Mario's some crazy shit with this plumber guy fighting a magical turtle, what kind of sense is that? But on some level the character resonates in a way that's to the franchise's advantage. If he was just a short Italian man, it'd be weird, but he's a plumber. A stereotypically downtrodden figure, with a permanent optimistic attitude that juxtaposes this and reflects how nice he must be. Which we know is a lie, we're just waiting for the allegations to come out, Luigi's ready. With Hat Girl, it feels like all of those elements of her design and personality never quite come together. I think she does have a really nice character that creeps through. She really dislikes conflict and is always optimistic in the face of danger. I don't know that her position as Watchful Guardian was really sold to me though. When I first saw her, I assumed she was kind of a cute, artful dodger type. You know, some kind of travelling rogue escaping from a strict household or the law. But she drives a spaceship and controls all of time and space, and you know I'm not really into that shit, right? I don't think you'd have to change this design, but I feel like a slight tweak and justification would have bridged the gap for me and provided the team with more direction towards the game's overall vision at large. Some of you might be thinking, I don't really get what you mean, Hat in Time is fine, it's just kinda crazy, you know, you gotta have a high IQ, right. I'll admit, I probably just sound like a weird old man again, maybe the examples I can think of are perhaps a bit too tame in showcasing a better example of how to best represent creative syntax in a less authoritarian way. Well, how about Cuphead? Like, Cuphead is incredibly wacky and bursting with creative designs and strange imagery, but it all comes from a consistent vision, as do the characters' motivations and gameplay choices. It's the blending of two archaic styles, the golden age of animation and the tough-as-nails shmup genre. Two heroes who gamble their lives away to the literal devil and who then have to fight their colourful friends, who can then be funny takes on both shoot-'em-up tropes and classic cartoons. Doesn't matter that they're a bunch of weird guys with cups for heads, it's all palatable because it's based on a specific direction. Cute cartoons and hard-as-nails gameplay, a happy-go-lucky rascal. Got it. See, it's back again. That is what we call I don't know the term, sorry. It's totally not that A Hat in Time isn't close to this. It's like 5 chess moves away, which, admittedly, that's not a one game of chess, fuck. I think if Hat in Time had more confidence in its own ideas and a much clearer through line, it would have always had a solid bedrock it could fall back on that would make this small game something I could really get into. And you know, maybe it's for the fucking best that I can't. Oh, and just to comment on the ending, skip to this timecode if you don't want to know. There's an implication early on that Mustache Girl has a larger or different reason for her anger towards the Mafia, that it's a problem she wishes she didn't have to deal with. Instead, the game kinda treats her as pretty throwaway, leaving me feeling like a setup I never got to a punchline I never got. And then Hat Girl turns out to be kinda terrible. Like, all these guys miss her and love her, and she sort of cruelly gets rid of them, not even in an oh I wish I could stay, but I can't kinda way. It's not really clear. Given that Chapter 3 ends in a pitch-perfect fashion, it shocked me not to see that idea follow through. So what's the payoff? Oh, so wait, so are you implying that it's literally the one, maybe you're not, but it's like, is this a dream, is it not? It's breaking all the rules, what can I say? Platformer revival? I sleep. Yeah, I know, I'm horribly anal retentive about this, but on the face of it, I don't think it's big potatoes. That's the thing, right? Earlier this year, I had my shit kicked in mentally by playing ukulele. The first game in a long time to actually make me upset, and everyone around me upset. Why do you keep playing this game?
Indignant hatred.
I just felt it was so obviously bad and awful, but kept seeing these comments talking about how great it was or that platformers were never good. And for the life of me, I don't know why, but I couldn't articulate how that could be shown up. And it got me down. Well, Hat in Time is the tonic to this problem. It's not the slam dunk I was hoping for, but it is a special gem that I never would have played if people hadn't pointed it out to me, and that's a sad thought. It got me thinking about this again, that was nice, and I think on going back to that game and what I'd like to see from it next way more than Platonic's effort. It's also worth mentioning that they believe strongly in putting the power back in the player's hands. Access exists for the modding community to come in and create their own experiences off the back of the existing assets, which is incredibly beneficial to furthering other people's attempts and research. I just hope they don't rest on their laurels for future projects. I was rooting for Hat in Time the whole way through, really willing for it to let me love it, and for the last act to completely turn over all my misgivings about its setup, and it just never happened. Ah well, at least it left a strong impression, and made me laugh. I'm a simple creature, trust me, outside of these videos I'm a pretty sure thing. If you've not been impressed with platformers lately, or just want to give something different a try, come and give this game a go. I think the guys who made it deserve the attention, and maybe the next game will blow me the fuck out, and wouldn't that be nice? Take me away! Thanks for watching, everyone! Mad props to my friend Shammy for his cheeky cameo. Let's hope he's learnt his lesson, honestly. Check out some of my other stuff. Sorry there's no ukulele video, still, but maybe someday, huh?
Take these markers and turn yourself into the most stylish, fashionable young lady.
Oh yeah, this'll be hilarious. Oh.